Tedros Adhanom, the Chinese-backed head of the World Health Organization in the United Nations. I don't want to call him Dr. Tedros because, of course, he's not a medical doctor. If someone in the theater said, "Help, is there a doctor in the house?" he couldn't say, "Yes, that's the test for me." That outrageous slur that Taiwan was engaging in racism against Tedros was taken very seriously by Taiwan. They investigated the claims and found literally no evidence whatsoever. They investigated the matter because, of course, Tedros himself could not find or substantiate his claims. It was nothing but a smear against Taiwan. I'm happy to say that Tedros Adhanom has been taken down a peg by no one less than Donald Trump, the President of the United States. Joining us now to talk about the World Health Organization and Trump's decision is our friend Ben Weingarten. You know him as the author of American Ingrate, the book about Ilhan Omar, and he also writes for The Federalist, where his latest essay, let me quote the title, is World Health Organization Director Again Parrots Chinese Propaganda in Anti-Taiwan Tirade. Ben, how you doing? Nice to see you again.
I'm doing well, Ezra. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Well, let me ask you this question. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on, by the way. You always bring a lot of smarts to the show. A lot of the usual suspects are clucking about the United States stepping away from the World Health Organization, but they're the people who have skin in the game. They're people who would profit from it. They're people who are associated with it. But just like when Donald Trump quit the UN global warming scheme, I don't think any normal people cared. In fact, they sort of cheered. Can you tell me what the American reaction has been to this Trump decision? Is there a grassroots uprising saying, no, 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 stay in? Or was it just met with shrugs and no one even cares?
Well, to put sort of an empirical glean on this, the American people poll overwhelmingly in the way of saying that they believe China is disproportionately responsible for the coronavirus. They agree with the Trump administration's policies on trade to punish China for their lack of free, fair, and reciprocal trade with the U.S. And on this issue of the WHO in particular, while, as you note, the elites who think of themselves as being in the mainstream in their views are all up in arms and predictably, frankly, shamefully parroting Chinese propaganda on this, claiming that the administration is trying to make a scapegoat out of the WHO, or the administration is trying to make a scapegoat out of the Chinese Communist Party, in effect. The reality is, I don't think that most Americans, the man on the street, really buys that line of reasoning. And I think the very simple argument to be made for this decision is, why would America spend another penny on an institution that is doing the Chinese Communist Party's bidding, and who in so doing has caused American loss of life, limb, and obvious treasure as well? It would be a suicidal policy to do so. What the president did was entirely rational to rational people in the country, but it's not rational people that are the ones populating the newsrooms on the East Coast and West Coast of this country.
Yeah. You know, at least when Trump pulled out of the global warming conference, that had a lot of media attention. Year after year, it was this time in November or December where it was like a week of global warming politics coverage. So people sort of were aware of it. I really don't think anyone severely normal, as I like to say, had really thought about the World Health Organization, really knew anything about it. And so to hear that Trump is pulling out of it, it's sort of, okay, it's like when Sir So-and-so's obituary appears. Well, a lot of people didn't even know Sir So-and-so was alive in the first place. So I think it's a no downside decision. And I find it an encouraging foreign policy statement of finally standing up to China and the globalist institutions that it's managed to colonize.
It's absolutely right. And I hope that the administration makes the point, and will make the point here, that, look, China having a Chinese Communist Party-backed Director General of the WHO is illustrative of their much broader strategy, which is to try to influence, corrupt, and pervert every global institution to which they are party, and their kind of chosen figures are leading any number of UN-linked and then outside UN global institutions as well. So this is a clear part of their grand strategy. And so the fact that we are showing now that we will pull the plug on an institution that works in an adversarial fashion towards U.S. national interest and the interest of the West more broadly, I think is a very positive sign. And I assure you that in Beijing, they are taking note of it.
Yeah. That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.